Hello everyone, my name is Jimmy Smith and welcome to episode number 44 of the Rambler podcast, where we are passionate about sharing what makes Cathedral Prep the standard of excellence. On this episode of the podcast, we are thrilled to have Meghan Fuhrman as a guest on the podcast today. Meghan graduated from Villa Maria Academy in 1999 and has been working in the education field for 14 years, in which she has enjoyed her many roles within the academic world. She has taught an array of science classes, served as the science department chair, and later as dean of students during her first tenure over at Villa with us. She currently teaches biology and is the coordinator for the Cathedral Prep MedPath program, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And in addition, she sits on the Pennsylvania Association of Student Assistance Professionals Board of Directors and is the vice chair of the Sisters of St. Joseph Mission and Ministries Foundation Board of Trustees. So, Meghan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, it was great knowing you previously. We both kind of had a stint at, you were at Villa, I was at the event center, and then we both came back, you know, with this new school that was coming about with Prep and Villa here.
Yeah.
So it's been great seeing you back around the building and everything, leading up this MedPath program and all the exciting stuff happening with that.
Thanks.
But one of the things I wanted to ask you starting off the podcast is, you know, your time at Villa, and, you know, you graduated in 1999. What was the reasoning for you deciding to attend Villa Maria Academy as a freshman back then?
It's actually an interesting story. So I'm very grateful that my parents decided to send us all through Catholic education. I'm very privileged in that I was able to do that, and my parents found that to be a necessary and a priority for them. And even as a super shy 8th grade student, believe it or not, I am pretty shy, I knew I wanted to grow and challenge myself. So I was the only kid to go from St. Boniface School out to Villa, and I was honestly terrified, but there was still a sense of calm and confidence, and that Villa was the right choice for me. Just the programming, and honestly, it was a feeling is really what I kind of went off of.
Well, and it's funny hearing that perspective of it too. You were the only one from your 8th grade class to go there. On the other side, there's kids who, you know, all their friends from, you know, St. Jude, which Villa would be right down the road, went to school together. So yeah, I'm sure that was a little intimidating walking in the halls your freshman year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I quickly became a leader there. I was class president. I was captain of the basketball team and the soccer team. And I kind of grew my wings there. I have 3 brothers. They all went to prep. And so growing up with 3 brothers, your wings get clipped sometimes. So going to Villa, I really kind of could grow and shine and kind of do my own thing out there.
Yeah. And it was fun. I had one of your classmates on as a podcast guest back in the spring, Maria Sansone.
Yes.
She was coming to Erie for her book tour, and I was able to link up with her to have her as a guest on the podcast. And she was telling me about you being classmates at the time and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually battled. We were both point guards for the basketball team. So her and I always, St. Boniface and St. Andrew had a thing back then.
Yeah.
And so when we ended up going to Villa together, at first we were not friends, but we quickly grew to be very close friends.
Right.
So yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I graduated prep with her younger brother, Dominic.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Who's so tall.
Yes. So I was just saw him the other day, and yeah, he's got a couple kids of his own now too.
Yeah.
So funny. And so when you look back at your time at Villa, you mentioned you were class president. Is there any other things that really stick out to you as, you know, special memories, things that you really cherish from your time as a student?
Yeah, of course I have so many. You know, Mary's Day, the sports day, the ring ceremonies, of course, rank amongst the top. But to be honest, I finally remember many of my teachers. Some of which I had the privilege of teaching alongside when I joined Villa as a teacher. Anna Co-Walker, Lance Strasser, Sister Martha Ann, Sister Mary Drexler. And really, the person that kind of stuck out for me was Mrs. Doreen Petrie, which is aptly named for a biology teacher after the Petri dish. But she really is the person who inspired me to go into science and particularly to biology.
Yeah.
And I actually, when I went back to Villa, she had emailed me and said, "Hey, do you have any microscopes we could borrow?" So it was like I got like my hero was I was teaching alongside and next to, so that was pretty great. But really, the teachers for me stuck out the most. They just cared. There was a different level of care that I don't necessarily know if I would have gotten if I went anywhere else.
Yeah, it definitely makes it special when you have that connection with those teachers, and especially in your instance where you ended up teaching in a field with, when you learned from somebody that you admired so much, obviously when you were a student.
Yeah, it was wild I still have this smile. She just really is that person for me.
Yeah.
That stood out.
And those are the things that when we look back at our time as prep, you're at Villa, and you remember, those memories there with your classmates, but those teachers that really play such an important factor, in terms of the experience that you have at school. And now you get to be that person on the other side of it too.
Yeah, it's a great honor and a privilege, and sometimes it can feel kind of like a hard weight because that sometimes these kids, sometimes it's the only smile they see in a day.
Yeah.
Or sometimes the only adult, depending on the situation. But it is a great opportunity to kind of like spread God's word through being able to teach at a Catholic school.
Yeah. And you've been in the education field for 14 years. So now, do you have experiences where when you're out and about in public, you have people yelling, "Hey, Mrs. Fuhrman"?
I do, and I sometimes can't remember. It's sad to say if I've taught them or if I went to school with them. There's so many, thousands of kids.
Right.
It's hard to keep track of, and I am not that person that's good at are you in college? No. And they've been graduated for 10 years. I'm like, oh my God. I, of course, adore them, and I know all about them, but I just can't, it's the years. They go by.
Well, and even time, it's so funny too, where exactly the years go by, as you say. I mean, somebody might have graduated a couple years ago, and you feel like it was, yesterday, and it was really 10 years ago.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I know. I have similar things. I'll see somebody catch up with them, and all of a sudden it's like, no, I've had my own kids, and I'm doing this and that. And I'm like, wow, where did that time go?
So many of my old students are married, and they're all having kids right now. My Facebook is just plastered with new little Ramblers coming up, I hope. It's really great to see.
Yeah. And, speaking of Ramblers, good segue there, right? This is your, first year here with us for this co-ed prep. And it's funny, it's felt like, talking about time, that you've been here longer than this is just your first year.
Yeah.
There's just been a lot happening, and you're doing some great work leading this MedPath program. But before we even start talking a little bit about the MedPath program, can you even share with us a little bit of a glimpse of, you used to work and teach at Villa, all girls, right? Now you're here at prep, new culture, different environment, boys and girls here. Can you talk to us about the experience that you're having now teaching here and what it's like at this new Cathedral prep?
Yeah, again, kind of going back to my childhood. So going from St. Boniface, so from Wattsburg to be bussed into here, we would drop off the boys first at prep, and then we would go to Villa. So my brothers would get off the bus and come into prep, and I always was like, what is going on in there? It was a place that I just was never in here.
Yeah.
And so coming back as a teacher, it is wild to walk in and not only walk the halls that they have, and my dad, all my uncles, everyone, it's a legacy of coming here to prep, but and then teaching alongside some of the teachers they had.
Yeah,
and
right.
Hearing stories, and it's kind of weird to think about that they were here at one point. And that's the great tradition of prep, of just, those kind of memories. And My family often will text and say, "Hey, have you seen the inside of the bell tower?" Or like, it's kind of weird.
And all the alums listening to this are thinking, "Oh, I know about that."
Yes, yes. I've been challenged to check out the bell tower.
Oh
But
man, you have to let me know if you make it up
yeah,
there.
I will let you know. I'll let you know how I can get in. But it's been great to be back. The co-ed, I honestly, because so much of my education career was with all girls, I was not sure of how it was going to go. And honestly, when I came back, the first thing that I did was ask before I signed my contract. I really wanted to know, like, what's happening? Like, what's you hear and you see social media posts, and of course, and that's great, but I really wanted to hear from the kids, because kids will be the most honest with you, and very forthright, sometimes to a fault. But every single kid I talked to, they said it was the best year they had at both prep and Villa, that being under the same building.
Yeah.
And they were very genuine about their response. And so for that, I guess it's kind of a theme for me, but I kind of go off a feeling.
Yeah.
And I just was like, this is the right move to make, and I'm very excited to be back.
Well, that's really encouraging to hear, because it's one thing for an employee to talk about the good things happening at a school, because of course they want it to be seen in a positive way.
Sure.
But as to your point, high school students, they'll be completely honest about if they hate it, love it, what they like, don't like, and you'll find out if the cafeteria food is good or bad or whatever it is.
Immediately.
Yeah. So that's really encouraging to hear that was part of your decision making, was getting the input from those students who had a good experience for that first year when everything was a little bit chaotic, getting things going.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's super exciting. So you teaching here, you mentioned, you had your brothers graduate from here, your dad, uncles, other people. Does it feel like you're now part of that legacy a little bit of being a part of it? Yeah.
I do. It's a whole different type of legacy, because I, of course, went to Villa. But it's the same. It's different, but the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your point, Mr. Killy, Bob Killy teaching here. Pat Seitek still's in the building, substitute. There's Rolf Deschner, who's a substitute. It's like these people that I'm sure your brothers, would have had.
Yeah.
They're still walking the halls in here. So
yep, tons of stories about them, and now they're very gentle old men, which I love. So I think they're probably a little bit different now than they were 30 years ago.
Yes.
But, still the same,
Yes, their legends live on, but a little bit calmer demeanors.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. No, that's really exciting, and that's great to hear that your perspective being now part of it, right? So your decision, kind of weighing that with the kids, and then now you seeing it from the inside this school year for how the co-ed experience is going for the students. That's really great to hear. And then when you, so you learned about this opening to lead the MedPath position. Can you talk to us about what it was that intrigued you about wanting to lead this MedPath program and kind of step into this role this year?
Yeah, so right before I left Villa, I would say 2 years before I left, we actually started looking at doing a MedPath program, something similar to it. And we had met meetings after meetings with local colleges and hospital systems, and just kind of talking about, because so many of our students were graduating, going into the medical field.
Yeah.
I think when I left, I think the statistic was 72% of them were going into a science.
Wow.
So there was such a big need for how can we get them into experiential learning in science. And so it actually had started before I had left. So when I saw that this position was open, I was ecstatic to come back and kind of see where it was at, and push it forward, and just kind of pick up on where we left off, and some of those nice relationships we had with the hospital systems and colleges were still there and growing, and so it was kind of easy to step back into it.
So what is the MedPath program, and what's the purpose of it?
So the MedPath program, and actually all of our pathway programs, have a holistic preparation approach. So we want to provide students with a well-rounded and comprehensive education that encompasses not only the technical and scientific aspects of medicine, but also incorporates critical thinking, ethics, communication skills, cultural competencies, all those big things that All those big words that career people talk about.
Yeah.
But in addition, we also want to provide clinical exposure, offering students that hands-on experience in the clinical settings and simulations, and then also interdisciplinary learning. So understanding that being able to you can be smart in science, but you got to be able to communicate to patients if that's the pathway that you're going to take.
Yeah. Well, when I came to learn about these pathways, and we offer 5, right? We have MedPath, Tech, Architecture and Engineering, Global Studies, as well as...
Business.
What was that?
Business.
Business, yes. Yeah. I was like, I'm thinking of it.
I was impressed you could just, that was good.
Yeah. So between the 5 of them, they all have the same purpose, right? For students who are interested in pursuing a program in a field in one of these areas, they can take a little bit of a deeper dive to find out, hey, there's a lot more than just working in, being an accountant, for example, with business. There's a lot of different fields they can take within that path. Particularly for you with MedPath, there's a lot of different options for kids, and I'm sure going into college, this MedPath program is going to help them prepare really to learn the skill discernment, right?
Yes.
To understand what field they might want to go into more so than others. But even how cool is it that they get these experiences in high school, all the things that you're listing off?
So great. I'm excited as the adult that is in charge of it to go out and do the things because I didn't have that experience. And I think it's so... And the adults in the world really are excited to show what they do. They want to talk about their careers. Which is exciting because I think sometimes when you've been in a career for a long time, you kind of get in that rut and you're like, why am I still doing this? And then I can see the energy. They're energized by the kids.
Yeah.
And like this, I remember now why I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's a nice mutualistic relationship. Really.
Yeah. Yeah, and anybody who follows us on social media no doubt has seen MedPath students are out and about and they're doing things. And can you talk to us a little bit about, some of those different experiences that you're providing the students, and can you talk about those experiences and why those are beneficial to the students and what you've been doing with them?
Absolutely. So when I came in, I really wanted to not only get the kids out of the building and into some experiences in hospitals and doctors' offices, but also bringing speakers in. And so we've created a lunch and learn speaker series. It takes advantage of our now longer lunch periods. Alumni will be shocked that we have more than 22 minutes for lunch. So we really take advantage of that. And this lunch and learn, it allows them to learn some networking skills, some industry insights, and then professional etiquette. So how do you have a meeting while you're trying to chew your sandwich and talk to another adult? And so they're kind of learning some of those transferable soft skills that are important for industry, and then also the content. So sometimes we have speakers come in to talk about their career pathway, what med school was like, or for instance, we have a state trooper coming in January to talk about the difference between legal and illegal drugs and kind of what that would look like in a patient. So sometimes it's content-based and sometimes it's career-oriented, of just kind of giving them different ideas of what's out there.
Well, that's pretty neat. And like you said, take advantage of these longer lunch periods.
Yeah, it's
I love
great.
that. Lunch and learn. How creative.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah.
In addition, we've also created a new program that we just recently released. It's called the Student Assistant Athletic Training Program. It's a mouthful. But it's an opportunity for students to actively engage in the world of sports medicine and athletic training. And it provides participants with a unique hands-on opportunity to work alongside our certified athletic trainers who are beloved here, gaining insight into their day-to-day operations of what it's like to be an athletic trainer. I have 4 students right now that are kind of kickstarting the program for us, and they are like so excited to get in there.
Cool.
It helps them with their anatomy and fit, some of the language that they're going to need to know, whether they go in athletic training or not. But great experience, and they're so excited to. It makes them feel important, because it is important that we have people like that to help rehab our students and or injuries that are occurring on the court, and just.
Yeah. Well,
Kinda
it's
put 'em
kind of
in
like the hands-on, stuff that's happening, and I think it's a good time to do a shout out for the hospitals that are really, helping
Yes.
support you in your efforts between Allegheny Health Network, St. Vincent. I know we're partnered with them, and
Yes.
they've been great partners with us, but also UPMC, between UPMC Health Plan, Hammett Health Foundation, UPMC Sports Medicine,
Yep.
all these entities really partnering with us to provide these opportunities for the students. And I know you've been working really closely with both hospitals,
Yes.
and they've been great.
They have been amazing. So our shadowing, the kids are emailing me every day because they hear about one kid having an experience and like, hey, can I go do that too?
Right.
Which is great. The word of mouth is really kind of what pushes the program, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But we've had kids shadowing nurses in the NICUs, plastic and orthopedic surgeons in their surgical suites, pathologists in the labs. So the kids are really getting a wide variety of what happens in a hospital.
Yeah.
And all the way up to administration. So in January, we're going to have the director of pharmacy at Children's Hospital in Colorado. She's actually flying in to talk to the kids about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then also artificial intelligence in the medical field and what that looks like now and what she thinks it's going to look like in the future. So she's Ashley Ramp. She is a Villa alum. She graduated in 2006, and she actually taught at Villa for about a year, and then was
no
like,
way.
I think I'm going to go to pharmacy school. And so her career has just exploded.
Wow.
So she's very excited to come back and talk to the
Yeah.
kids.
Well, that's really cool. And again, it comes back to, some of the things that make Prep and Villa so special is that our network of alums who, as you and I talk about how much of an experience we appreciate being students, there's people all around the country doing some really amazing things that feel the same way. And for her to come back, to give back to the school and talk to the students, I'm sure she's so excited, like you said, to be able to do so.
Again, it's that symbiotic relationship of, again, it excites her to talk about her career and kind of come back and see what it's like at the new school, and then for the kids to hear what hospital administration looks like, because we have a lot of leaders in this program, and you might not always be in the field, but being an administrator is very important, and having good leaders in those roles is even more important.
Right, absolutely. So it's funny, I was saying you're in your first year. You're in your first semester still, the school year, which is hard to believe. I know it's coming to an end here soon for the first semester.
Yeah.
What's the feedback that you're getting from the students up to this point in the school year so far about where the program's at, the experiences that they're having? What have they been telling you?
I think the big thing is just the excitement. There's a buzz. They're over the moon to be able to go out and do things. And honestly, sometimes they want to get out of class, which I get.
Right, of course.
Right?
Yes.
That's part of it. But really, all of the experiences that we've had, I think, even more importantly than knowing what you want to do is what you don't want to do.
Yes.
And so kind of going through that haystack of what are my passions and what am I good at is really important. So I also teach a senior seminar class, which is with just the MedPath students. So we have been exploring all kinds of things, but some of it is, again, looking at those personality skills. What are you naturally good at? And let's use those to our advantage. And then also we've been looking at like student loan debt and what is that going to look like and what's the monthly payment going to look like. And also we've looked at their proposed colleges and what do the jobs look like around campus? Are there on-campus jobs, or like, are you going to work at a Subway? Are you going to be able to work? Just kind of talking through some of that, because as excited they are to leave here, they're also terrified, which we remember fondly. And I do have a senior in high school myself, so I get that emotion of wanting to spread our wings, but also like, I don't know if I can leave the nest. So kind of giving them that confidence of, you got this, you can do this.
Well, it sounds like these pathway programs, beyond the technical career, skills of learning discernment, it's kind of some like just real world life, like thinking things through a little bit. Like, yes, you're excited to leave, but to your, what you were saying, let's take a little bit further dive into looking into student loan payments, and then also what colleges you want to do and how's the jobs looking there. So it's really great to hear that extra step of preparation is really allowing the kids to take that reflectiveness to say, okay, it's a very exciting time. We're going to be graduating soon, but let's look at what it's going to be like for real life in about 6 months when I'm not here anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I don't know no one wants to teach that because it's the scary stuff, right?
Yeah.
But also it's so important for them to not only be real about it, but let them know there are supports. And, it might seem like a big chunk of change right now, but what does that look like going out?
Right.
Everything's doable. Just how do we support you in that adventure?
Yeah, we had so Dr. Dave Dowsey from Duquesne University came in and met with Will Patuch and Kevin Smith and myself, and he had a couple others from Duquesne University come up. They're partners with us in the pathway programs, and one of the things that he was talking about was that what he loved about these pathway programs is the art of having the skills, or the kids learn the skill of discernment and a self-awareness. When you're talking about the personality assessments, those things make a difference when you can go to college and already be prepared. You're going to be ahead of the game. That's what he was telling us, is that's what he loves so much about these programs that we're implementing, is that these kids will be so much more prepared for college, but for life. By going through these pathway programs. So, no, just kudos to you and the great work you're doing with these kids in the MedPath program.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're looking at things you're doing, already making plans for next year and how it can be better.
Yes.
What does the future of the MedPath program look like for you under your leadership?
So, with the help of our sponsors and our alumni and the wider Erie community, I really think that this program could provide a unique opportunity for so many future students. There have been some proposals from local college community and hospital systems that I can't really release quite yet. They're still in the process, but I can say there are some really big dreamers and some ideas in motion that hopefully we'll be able to release sooner than later. But I just think really working on that confidence, and honestly, it's really connections of who do you know? And how can we get you in, and what will be the best situation for you moving forward as far as like even classwork. We do have an opportunity with dual enrollment class at Gannon. My sophomores are currently taking it, medical terminology, and Gannon opening it just for our students.
Wow.
And so they again have another college credit that they'll be able to use pretty much anywhere, and it'll help them with their anatomy and phys in their junior year. So, like I said, everyone's really trying to work together because the medical field is hurting for people right now so bad, and they want our kids just as bad as the kids want to get out there and work. So I'm excited about some of those possibilities that might be coming forward.
Yeah, well, it all sounds like very exciting stuff. And I would say if you're a listener to the podcast right now and you know of a kid who, they're probably young, 7th, 8th grade, but they're showing interest in the medical field, encourage them to check us out at Prep. Come see and learn what the MedPath program is, whether they're kind of really considering Prep as an option for high school or not. It's worth the conversation because the things that Meghan's talking about here and the opportunities that the kids are going to have by being a part of this MedPath program, but then also the other pathway programs we mentioned as well. It's definitely worth checking it out, shadowing for a day. I guess it would be open house in the fall, but just coming by and seeing what we have going on here because it's really exciting, great opportunities for these kids. It really is.
Yeah, my best advice is much like me when I was discerning coming back was talk to the kids. I have plenty of MedPath kids that I could get you in contact with and let them speak about it because they're the best. They're the ones living through it.
Yeah, right. That's what I love about when you can shadow for a day.
Yes.
You get to kind of really experience the open house, everything looks nice. Of course, everything's in order. Right. But when you shadow for a day, it's just a random Tuesday.
Yep.
You never know what you're going to get.
Yep. You never know.
You never know. No, that's great. Well, we appreciate all the work you're doing with the MedPath program and all the information that you've shared with us. I got one final question for you. It's a surprise bonus one for you, all right?
Okay.
So the question is, and I'll say it and then I'll preface it. What does it mean to be a Rambler? So when you think about that question, obviously with the enjoyment of Villa and Prep, being a Victor is something I think would resonate more with you, being that, your time at Villa. But that same spirit of what does it mean to be a Rambler now today with the kids, what is that question? What does that mean to you?
Oh, this is a pop quiz for all
This
of you
is.
out there.
This is. Yeah, that's why I tried to preface it a little bit so you had a second kind of think, since I surprised you with it.
Yeah, it's hard to put into words again because I'm a feeling kind of person.
Yeah.
But I think head-driven is someone who is dedicated to their craft, whether it's on the sports field, in the theater, in the classroom, all over. Someone who is just driven by sometimes those activities.
Yeah.
But also understanding that the skills that you're learning in all of those are transferable to, in the classroom, what's it like to be a teammate. And because of our size, it is nice that you're able to speak with teachers kind of one-on-one and be able to have some attention that you might not necessarily get elsewhere. But also that tradition of the faith, family, excellence, and tradition, like that's something that is ingrained that you could ask anybody that question that went to Villa and it'll come right back up, which is also a part of our Cathedral Prep mantra as well.
Yeah.
But really somebody who has a faith center that has that core to go back to when life gets troublesome, like I get teary talking about it, but just being able to give the people that kind of confidence, and it might not be in earthly things, and that you have a faith to rely on and come back to is so important, because life is not always easy, and knowing that you have a community of people that will understand exactly what you're saying and be there for you in a heartbeat. And it's still like that. It has not changed.
And that's what makes this place so special, right?
Yeah.
It's that camaraderie. It's the family feeling. It's knowing that people are here that have your back, whether it's the Villa Sisterhood, the Prep Brotherhood, and now the family environment that we have here at Prep. It's people are going to have your back no matter what. And I think you hit the nail on the head for what's it mean to be a Rambler. It's that bond, it's that connection, it's being there for people. It's also things you were talking about, holding your head up high and knowing that the things that you're doing do matter, and we're going to go out there and instill confidence in our kids to be the best that they can be.
Yeah.
Because we know this time is a short 4 years.
It is.
But you're always a Rambler. You're always a victor.
Yep. Always.
Yes. Cool. Well, I appreciate that with the pop quiz there, the little surprise. You're used to giving pop quizzes. I figured I'd throw one in for you.
I like it. The students will appreciate that.
It'll keep you humble, keep you honest, right? Yeah.
I like it.
Oh, man. No, but that's good stuff, Meghan. We really, again, we appreciate all the work that you're doing. I'm thrilled that you're back here with us. You're a great asset to Prep and the work that you're doing with the MedPath program. I love seeing the social media posts of all the stuff you're doing with the kids, so keep up the great work. And thanks again for being a guest on the podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for asking me, Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. Well, thanks again.
All right.